Good morning, everybody. This is Grant from State of the Spark, and I am super pumped you're here. Happy Monday or whatever day it is for you. Oops, sorry, my audio is freaking me out. There we go. This is Grant from State of the Spark, and we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about margin of safety. And for those who have been following along, we have been reading Psychology of Money, and there's an awesome chapter about margin of safety. But we're going to talk about this as it reflects to your life success and whether or not you are living with a margin of safety. In fact, if anything, I believe a lot of on the insecurity on which direction to take. Should I be doing X? Should I be doing Y? Should I be doing Z? I think a lot of that comes from lack of margin of safety. But before that, we're going to be covering other news and hidden artwork that comes from dumpster dives. And before all of that, as we start every first day of the week or whatever it is, every Monday, we're going to be talking about morning cup of gratitude. What are you grateful for? I want to hear in the comments below what's making you happy, what's making you afraid, what's making you concerned, but what you're grateful for and what got you through this weekend. And you know, I'm going to start. Tell you what I'm grateful for this morning. I'm grateful that my wife had such a good time. Saturday night, she got to go out with a bunch of friends, and sounds like they had an absolute blast. They took a party bus. We're out all night. It was the first time in a long time that my wife hasn't been home till like 2 or 3 in the morning. Yes, typically when I get up in the morning, I'm grateful that she had access to that. I am supremely grateful, and I mean this, and this you're watching, and you're going to be like, what the crap is Grant talking about that for? I am sincerely grateful for the NFT community. It was a powerful community that encouraged me this weekend to actually put out some of my artwork. And I've been doing artwork for a long time, and I'm super proud of, I'm proud of my artwork, but there was such a level of encouragement to, hey, get your art out there. People want to see it. And so I went ahead and posted my work on OpenSea and got it out into the public. It was great. And I was just super encouraged to like work on artwork throughout the weekend. So that's what I'm grateful for. What are you grateful for? What's getting your day going? What are you looking forward to most? What are the biggest challenges you're looking at overcoming today? I want to hear about it in the comments below. Let's talk about other news and hidden artwork found in a dumpster. So Connecticut. The state Connecticut is the most difficult state for me to pronounce because I want to pronounce every consonant, but it actually just sounds like Connecticut. But regardless, mechanic in Connecticut, Jared Whipple, got a phone call from a friend. You see, his friend was doing house cleanouts. And in this house cleanout, they came across an old barn. And in this old barn, his friend suddenly found a very curious sight. So his friend called him, and Jared Whipple, a mechanic, drove on over, and he found on this property an old barn full of all sorts of paint equipment and art. But just outside, there was a 40-foot dumpster ready to go to the dump, full to the brim, front to back, back to front, filled to the top of paintings and artwork. Now, this was curious enough, and yes, it was already garbage, but they were all wrapped in plastic, protected from dirt and grime and scratching, but they were ready to go to the dumpster, and it was very curious. And they had rights to all this property, so they went ahead, they put the artwork back into the barn and started to do their homework. Now, they did see that most of the artwork was signed F. Hines, and they had no idea who that was. But after much searching, they found on eBay a painting from 1961, and on the back was the name Francis Madsen Hines. Now, the style of artwork was very similar to the style that they found in the dumpster, and they thought there has to be a correlation of some kind. So after some homework, they actually found out that this was artwork by the at one time famous artist, Francis Hines. Now, Francis Hines, you might not know, but Francis Hines was an artist who actually was famous or became famous in 1980 for wrapping Washington Square in fabric. And it made this gorgeous thing. You can look it up yourself. And I have a link for you here. In fact, I'll put the link right now so you can actually check this out. Visual aids. There we go. There we go in the comments there and in the comments there. Now, Francis Hines became radically famous starting with this Washington Square wrapping, but he went on to wrap multiple sites, including subways and different things, to actually create an aesthetic that was some form of performance art, which I won't go into here and probably don't understand in all honesty. But But he was famous in the New York art scene in the 80s. And very soon, he realized he just wanted to create. So, though he would paint in his New York studio, he would often throw his paintings in the back of a truck and drive out to this property and put them in the barn. In fact, it was all about the work and all about the art for Francis Hines. That's what made him happy. And he had everything else he needed in life. He had friends, he had relationships, and all he wanted to do was create. So, as the 80s wore on, he decided he was going to recluse himself and move back to the barn and just create art. And ultimately, his name and his brand was lost to the art scene entirely. He died in 2016 at the age of 96. And along comes Jared Whipple and his friend over 20 years later, right? 22, 24 years later. And while they're cleaning out his house, they find dozens and dozens of his artwork. So his artwork is now coming in and being auctioned off at $20,000 a piece. And the collection at large is worth the millions. Who gets these millions? Jared Whipple. Now, there's different things that I was taking away from the story. Number one, there's still extraordinary art treasures to be found in the world. That's out there. If you're looking for it, go antiquing, go with a friend, go explore old barns and find beautiful artwork. But the other lesson is that fame is fleeting. Whether or not I have any sort of following, my following one day, last Friday, could get up to 12 people, 15 people in one video post. And by the end of the day, my video on YouTube has been viewed hundreds of times. Or like now on Monday, it's a big goose egg right now at 0, 1, 3, 5, none. And we'll see. Fame is fleeting. And you shouldn't chase fame. You should maybe chase influence, but that's for another conversation. The other lesson is that the value of the art is in the story of the viewer. You see, Francis Hines' artwork was not in high demand. For all people knew, it was wrapping fabric around items. People didn't really even know that they wanted his paintings. But the story itself, the story of an artist who goes underground, the story of two random non-art people, backwater mechanics who find his work, and now they're millionaires because they're sitting on his artwork about to be auctioned off. The value is in the story of the viewer. So again, I've put that link in the comments if you want to check out more about Francis Hines, view some of his artwork, or be encouraged that somebody had the boldness in their life to just remove themselves from society because they found their thing. And that is all they wanted to do was paint. And they didn't care if they sold it. They didn't care if they shared it with anybody else. They put it in a dumpster as soon as they were done with it. And if you want to hear an inspiring story about a mechanic who had an eye and a curiosity that resurrected an artist, you can check that there. Let's talk about planets line dancing. Line dancing. Some of you don't know this about me, but my dad used to take me line dancing. There was a very brief period of my childhood where dad was going out with his friends and they were going out dancing and ended up they were line dancing. And yes, this guy was line dancing, but I'm not the only one line dancing. Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn are line dancing this morning just above the horizon. If you look about an hour before the sun comes up into the east, it's probably a little late right now in our time, 6:55 our time. If you look east, you'll see a line of what looks like stars. Yes, they're planets. Jupiter will be the brightest one of them, but it's the lowest in the line. There'll be 4 of them in a row, and you can see them all with the naked eye. It's going to be gorgeous. Look in the southeast, and I'll drop a link here so you know where to look to see planets. I love seeing the planets. I love the mystery and the allure of the, there we go. The mystery and the allure of being able to look out and see the stars with the naked eye. It was how Marissa and I, one of our first dates was me sharing with her an app that allowed us to see planets and stars. That was super fun. I had a Galaxy Pad, iPad thing back then, and we were looking at that together. I love looking at the stars and the mystery and the curiosity it draws you into. But we got to solve something for people today. Let's talk very briefly about the margin of safety. What is margin of safety and why do you need one? Because you're not as happy as you could be. Happy in the moment about where you're at today and where you're going to be at the future. Let's talk about it. You see, I talk to a lot of people and I realize a lot of you are torn between principles. You get a lot of what seems to be competing advice. Should you fast to lose weight? Or should you eat all day, small meals to lose weight? Which is it? What works best for you? Is it better to have large groups of friends that you can just get along with as I do? Or is it better to have a small group of deeply intimate friends as Marissa typically does? Is it better to focus, follow one course until successful, follow one course until successful, focus, do your one thing, as Curly said in City Slickers from the 90s? Or is it better to have multiple streams of income, have multiple irons in the fire, and be working on multiple angles? One of them leverages your time, energy, and momentum. The other seems to be split a little bit. Which of these pieces of advice is better for you? To hustle or to slow down and meditate? Which of these pieces of advice are better for you to make decisions? You see, people are torn, and especially in today's connected age, we are getting bombarded with so much what seems to be different advice. No one's giving context. I was talking to my good friend Eli over Waffle House yesterday on an Easter morning, and he and I sat at that part at Waffle House that I actually prefer, and it's a low place where people sit all around you and you're close to other people. You're not tucked away in your own private booth. You're in this public booth, and it really feels like a diner. And Eli and I were talking about this, and he was expressing his frustration, which I agree with, that a lot of people, especially young people who are trying to get direction in their life, are bombarded by so many gurus that they don't know what to do. It's shallow. And I asked him, which of this advice is real? And he's like, you know what? Some of the advice is actually good advice if it weren't just carbohydrates, if it were actually contextualized. We're torn between principles, and we don't really know which principle to follow for our. If we were just looking at the total life experience, the TLE, fitness and health, healthy, happy relationships, work we enjoy, and spirituality, how do we feel a level 7 to 10 or a scale of 1 to 10? How do we feel a level 7 to 10 every single day in those areas? Which of these advices will help us consistently feel that way? And what's worse than this is the fear that if you choose one of these ways, you lose out on the other. If I choose fasting, am I throwing my metabolism off so that when I do eat, I put on too much weight? If I choose eating all day or ketogenic diet, if I choose lifting, am I putting on muscle so that it's reducing muscle? And if I'm doing that and not doing cardio, am I missing out on cardio? If I do cardio and I'm not building muscle, am I burning enough fat? What is it? We're torn between principles, but what's worse, we're experiencing extreme amounts of FOMO. If I commit to one, am I saying no to the other? We have very short-term time perspectives. This is a problem for most of you looking to feel fulfillment, but I think the answer is in card counting. You see, I was reading The Psychology of Money today, which I really recommend you all do, and it talked about card counting. And in card counting, it profiled how card counters are very good at counting cards, but they are not good at taking risks. In fact, card counters, by definition, don't take any risks in their own mind. Not only do they ensure that their counts, the cards that they are counting increases their probability from 49% to 51%. They only need a 2% spread to actually win on statistics. And you think, hey, man, if you could win 51% of the time, go hard, go all in. What does all in mean? It means you push all your chips into the pot. No. Card counters don't do that. Card counters know, yes, if you can win 51% of the time, you'll win, but over your lifetime. Now, if you had a 90% chance of success, yes, you might want to go all in. Why? So we can get ahead now. We can get that $1 million NFT when it was only $100, and then we win the lotto of NFTs, and then we can check out early and get to the beach early. And our fear as we go through life is we're all looking for the flash in the pan, short-term win. Card counters don't do this. Card counters instead, not only are they reducing their risk because they're card counting and they're trying to get a 51% probability of success, but the next part is what makes card counters really successful. They never risk more than 1% of their available cash. You see, card counters know that statistics at 51%, it doesn't mean that you win 51% of every pot. It means you win 51% of every trip to the casino, which means that you have to endure 49 out of 100 trips to the casino losing. But 51% of the trips to the casino, you win. Imagine if you went to work and you said, I'm only going to win 51% of these days being happy and 49% of them being unhappy. But card counters are wildly successful, more successful than others. You see, a lot of people want to go to work and they want to have 95% happy days. And in so doing, they wear themselves out. But that's not the lesson for the day. You see, in the pursuit of significance and success, the things we pursue likely don't have a high chance of success, especially entrepreneurs. Your business has a much lower than 51% chance of success, at least over the short term. Statistically, everyone is trying to get from you. They're trying to get your time. They're trying to get your money. Hey, why don't you come and volunteer at this event? You should give back. But that's what all of them tell me. Hey, why don't you donate to this event? That's what all of them tell me. Hey, why don't you consume my products, my goods, my services, buy from my DoorDash? They're trying to take out of your pocket. They're trying to take out of your time on this planet. They're trying to take from your attention. That's just the game of being alive. That's not capitalism. That's the game of being alive. But on a short enough time span, your small business, your side hustle, your hopes, your dreams, Marissa's desire to hike the Appalachian Trail. Marissa's desire to hike the Appalachian Trail today has nearly a 0% chance of success. But over a lifetime, it's nearly 100% success. So how do we reconcile this fear of missing out, fear of choosing the wrong strategy? I want this strategy and this strategy. I want to lose weight, so I'm going to lift or do cardio. I'm going to work out twice a day and do 75 hard. I'm just going to run every single morning, which is going to get me there. Well, what we can learn from card counters is this. It's not the 51% statistical probability that makes card counters successful. If they believed that they were going to succeed 51% of the time and showed up and put all their chips in, they have a actually relatively high probability of losing. It's conservation of available resources. It's here's the lesson of the day. It's their margin of safety. You see, with 51% chance of success that a card counter has, and this is the probability of success that you pick the right Wall Street bet, you should have a margin of safety that is healthy, that allows you to keep coming back over a long enough period of time. If you only have a 51% chance of success, you should only risk 1% of your pot. That means if you have $10,000 available to invest today, you should not invest more than $100 at a risky bet. If you lose, that's your loss. If you're ready to invest more and you have more to come back and you believe in your strategy, you should show up tomorrow with the next $100. Billy Weigel says, boom, ready to start the week strong, and the president of the Spark Show host. Billy and I are getting together later today, surrounding ourselves with better and better people, surrounding ourselves with people who are extraordinary in their field. Looking forward to it, Billy. We're going to have a great time today. So how do we fix being torn between strategies and having very low probabilities of success? How do you reconcile this? Margin of safety. Quick quote from The Psychology of Money from Benjamin Graham, and it's this. The purpose of margin of safety is to render all of your forecasting unnecessary. You see, quite often as a small business owner, I have to forecast. Hey, this year's going to be like this. Prices are going up like this. We're going to have to raise our salary. Think of all of the struggle I do to predict forecasting. This employee is going to work out. This employee is not going to work out. This is what we need to sell. This is the product we need to offer. This is what I need to do this week. All of it's forecasting. Marissa often criticizes me, Grant, you don't really know what you're talking about. You're just guessing. And I'd say, I'm not guessing. I mean, I'm following my intuition. I have a 51% chance or higher of success because I've been at it quite a while. And then you look at it and go, wait, everything I just described is a form of guessing. It's gambling to a degree. I have better probabilities than card counters because I've been at it a while. I'm hitting my 15-year mark and then some. So I'm getting to my 20-year period. I'm just in it for the time, right? You got to invest the 10,000 hours. But, and you won't hear this often, she's kind of right. We are guessing. I say, no, I'm not guessing. I have a high probability of success because I know what I'm doing, because you're trying to dismiss people that are guessing. But the truth is, all of us are guessing. And the degree of certainty we have should correlate to a degree of experience and degree of knowns. But in general, none of us really know. And she's right. I am forecasting. But to Benjamin Graham was the value investor who wrote The Intelligent Investor, and a lot of people refer back to Benjamin Graham's work. Benjamin Graham later said he actually does not believe in value investing. Believe it or not, people don't know this. but he wrote the Value Investor book that the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, follows. But Benjamin Graham said much later in life, guess what? In today's day and age, value investing doesn't work. Inside knowledge works, experience works, understanding works, but value investing doesn't really work. And he said the purpose of margin of safety is to render forecasting completely unnecessary, meaning if you have the self-discipline to not bet 50% of the farm at any given moment, but 1% on any given day, if you have a 51% chance of success or more, it's conservation of resources. Okay, that sounds great when it comes to gambling, Grant. That sounds great when it comes to money. How about life and success and happiness? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how to wield margin of safety in your own life. Here's 5 quick principles, and I know you got to get about your day. Really, this concept was to put in your noodle on your commute to work, or as you check in your Zoom calls today. I wanted to put this in your noodle to think, what is your margin of safety? And here is mine. As I found it, because I use the TLE, that's the Spark Freedom Framework for the total life experience. That's feeling not necessarily happy or joyful, but positive, feeling optimistic. And that is feeling a level 7 out of 10 and the areas of fitness and health, healthy, happy relationships, work you enjoy, and spirituality. If you can feel a level 7 to 10 in all of those areas, you're going to feel okay about life and hopeful. If you feel low in 1 or 2 of those, life might feel a little less than stellar, but doable. And if you feel less than 7 to 10 in any of them, or less than 5 in any one of them, it's going to start feeling off. You're going to feel off. Here's my freedom framework for using margin of safety, because you guys know that I'm doing multiple streams of income, but I'm building up Spark sites, and then we're doing the Spark show, and then Grant's investing in NFTs. What is the context for all of this? Where does this fit? Is Grant just chaos on fire? Chaotic good? Is that Grant? Well, maybe to a point. But I actually believe I'm lawful good. And for those who don't understand the philosophy context of that, reach out some other time. We'll talk about it. Here's my 5 quick strategies or principles on how to make margin of safety work in your favor. You see, Tony Robbins once said, listen, you can't chase spontaneity and create stability, but you can create stability and chase spontaneity. When you use margin of safety, you're effectively creating stability to empower you to chase spontaneity, which are the 2 basic core elements of humans. We, at the same time, paradoxically, want to feel completely secure, but we want to have a lot of fun and be surprised and delighted all the time, stimulated all the time. Here's my 5 quick principles of that. Number 1, place things in short and long-term strategies. This would summarize margin of safety activities versus what seems to be flash in the pan activities. Long and short-term strategies can both fit into your world. The long-term strategies are the margin of safety strategies. Margin of safety strategies have the most likely path to success. For example, in real estate, and I'll get into this in a quick second, real estate over the long term is me and Marissa's margin of safety activity. It would have been in another generation putting into an IRA or 401k and working 40 years, but that's not available to us. It wasn't available to me in the middle of my career in my mid-20s. In my late 20s, actually. In my late 20s, the social contract died once and for all, and it just wasn't available to me. So we came up with another margin of safety retirement strategy, and that's real estate. No, it's not being an influencer. No, it's not the businesses I build. Those would all be good if they perpetuated. But the real estate is ultimately the long-term margin of safety activity. Short-term, so this first principle is place all your strategies, whether it's fasting versus eating all day, whether it's lifting versus cardio. Decide which of these are long and short-term strategies. Short-term strategies have a lower probability of success. They're more experimentation, but they have a higher potential of reward. If OMAD, 1 meal a day, really works for me, as fasting and OMAD did for me for about a year ago, I just went on a full-blown experiment for about 4 weeks, and it was awesome. It really worked for me. Believe it or not, cardio and high intent HIIT exercises work a lot better for me than lifting or like long distance running. HIIT activities work really well for me, but these are all short term. They have a lower probability of success, but a higher possibility of reward. But long-term strategies are kind of proven. So nearly all are apparent dichotomies. Nearly all apparent dichotomies you see in the world are actually just on different time horizons and have different types of risk and reward. which means you can pursue both. Because real estate actually doesn't take a lot of time. It can if it's your full-time thing. But as a real estate investor, we actually don't invest a lot of time in it. There's a lot of waiting. I have to gather up cash. If I don't have cash available, I have to work and put cash together. I have to watch the timing in the market. I have to make sure that the time period from my last investment has rested a little bit and that my credit has recovered from the last purchase a little bit. Like there's time investment. So there's a lot of downtime between long margin of safety activities. First principle, place strategies on short and long-term strategies. Long-term strategies are your margin of safety activities. Principle 2, put long-term strategies, margin of safety activities in motion first. Put margin of safety activities in motion first. Schedule them. Put them on your calendar. They get the first priority in your time block each week. They won't take a lot of time necessarily, but they get the first time on your calendar. Your initial investments, if you have long-term investments, put those in action first because chances are they're income producing. Oftentimes we're buying dividend stocks or growth or high growth stocks. We're buying staking cryptocurrencies instead of sitting cryptocurrencies. Put all of those in place so that you have the peace of mind that they're working for you. Now you just got to get compounding working for you. Typically, margin of safety activities, the ones you do first, typically they're tried and true or they're becoming tried and true. They have lower returns. Right now, staking returns are tanking. They went from $500,000% a year to 20 to 30% a year. And you can do some degen things to get those leveraged. But for the most part, they're getting more conservative. So margin of safety activities have more conservative returns, but compounded over time, they rock for you. And lastly, their cycles are longer. Principle number 1, place your strategies, fitness strategies, relationship strategies, work strategies, spiritual strategies on long and short-term strategies, timelines. And know that margin of safety is often long-term strategies. Number 2, put your margin of safety activities in motion first. Number 3, then place, and only then, only after you have your long-term margin of safety activities in place, only then place your short-term bets. That's when you're going to actually wake up and give it your best. That's when you're going to give your fitness and health and go, heck, if I've got, and I'm going to give this one away because later I talk about the TLE in just a quick second. I believe the margin of safety activity for fitness and health is nutrition, not the workout. And by that, I mean knowing when, basically resisting urges. So fasting is timely, but sometimes eating small meals all day is timely, but ultimately is caloric restricting. You need caloric restricting. And well, Grant, if you're not eating enough, well, replace the junk you're eating with healthier stuff. We could talk about that. But if you can have a margin of safety activity around fitness and health, nutrition is in place, then the highs and lows of the workouts you're able to do. If I'm traveling, I can't do the lifting like I want to do. I don't carry my jump rope around with me everywhere, but I can run anywhere I'm at unless I'm injured. But if my nutrition's in place and I have caloric restricting activities in place, that's my margin of safety activity. So that's an example. So only once you have your long-term, AKA your margin of safety strategies in place, only then place your short-term bets. Now, your short-term bets should only take up, if you have a 51% probability of success, they should only take 1% of your available resources. If you have $10,000, you have $100,000. You shouldn't place more than a $1,000 bet on something, at least not in its time frame. If you have a higher probability of success, for example, me and Marissa have a very high probability of success when it comes to real estate. So I would place much more of my available capital at that. But that latest cryptocurrency that I'm not really sure it's going to do anything, I'm placing a much smaller bet, just a couple $100 on that one. Place your short-term bets and place them aggressively. By aggressively, do them, but don't get overly aggressive. So really have a risk assessment on what is the probability that this thing actually is going to succeed. Now, you can't know actually. It's really hard to know which cryptocurrency is actually going to take off. What's the probability that Shiba Inu cryptocurrency is going to take off? It's not 51%. It's probably less than 1%. So you need to actually calculate it, but whatever it is, then place them because good short-term bets pay off. Marissa and I had a good short-term bet at the beginning of the pandemic. where we said, listen, the market's in the toilet and our probability of success, because the market was at a recent all-time low, our probability of success was higher than 51%. It was closer to like 75 or 80% probability of success. So we took a larger chunk of our resources and dropped it and got aggressive, and we hem and hawed for a day, but we decided, let's just go. And it paid off. It tripled or quadrupled or something like that. So once you have placed your potential strategies into long-term and short-term strategies, and you've identified which is your margin of safety activities, then place your margin of safety activities in place first. We didn't touch our IRA, believe it or not. That stayed in place. We didn't touch our real estate. We didn't pull from our real estate to do this. That real estate stayed in place. We didn't touch our margin of safety activities. Then we placed our short-term bets. And in that case, it paid off. But here's the thing about short-term bets. You need to talk more about your losses. I lost hard on Wonderland Time, personally. But thankfully, I didn't place my entire bet. My margin of safety activities kept me safe. I lost a lot on that short-term bet, which was a small percentage bet. I lost a lot. Number 4, never sacrifice your long-term strategies or your margin of safety for short-term gambles. I lost on Wonderland Time. They have a phrase, don't put good money after bad. I feel that. I'm not going to now double down. I might continue to dollar cost average because of the particular situation, but I'm not going to suddenly stop investing in crypto. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to pull out money from my IRA, and I'm not going to pull out money from my real estate for that. That's not my available capital. My available capital is earned income, and I look at that earned income and go, of this capital, what's my next short-term bet? Let's go. And then my other one is my time. I have my JOB. We got Spark Sites. We have to work Spark Sites. I got my training, which I love to do. It's fulfilling work. So I can do these, but they're also short-term bets or medium-term bets, not the training, but the job. And so you go all in on your short-term because that's where energy is executed. Resources are executed on margin of safety activities. Energy is executed on short-term strategies. That's the nugget. Lastly, number 5. Use the TLE as a framework if you don't know where to start. Fitness and health, healthy, happy relationships, work you enjoy, spirituality. And I'll tell you the margin of safety activity is in each of these. Number 1, I just told you about fitness and health. If you're deliberating between 75 hard, cardio and running 3 days a week, just stretching and yoga, all of those are positive. My present for your consideration, the margin of safety activity is nutrition over your lifetime. I just said this before. Grant, so should I keto? Should I Weight Watchers? I don't know what's best for you, but whatever's best for you from a nutrition standpoint is probably best for you for life. So spend time figuring it out. We know real estate is good for us. We're going to focus on that for life. We figured it out. We're going to do real estate, and this is how we're going to do it. Now we don't have to think about it again. That's how we do it. The same with nutrition. It might take you a bit to figure out what nutrition works for you, but figure it out. For me, fasting, intermittent fasting or OMAD, caloric restricting, and then when I am eating all day, eating small meals all day long. So like literally fasting 3 days a week, the days I'm not fasting, eating small meals all day, with a focus on greens and salad. If I could just start with greens at every meal, man, I'd just be better for it. But more than all of that, the concept of caloric restricting, whether it's eating less, whether it's fasting, whether it's being selective with the calories I intake, the idea of caloric restricting is just better across the board. And once I have nailed that, then I can pick whatever workout program I want. The margin of safety activity for health and fitness, to me, is nutrition. The margin of safety activity for healthy, happy relationships. Grant, should I have a large group of friends or a small group of deep friends? The margin of safety activity over a lifetime is having a small group of tight friends that you can both rely on one another. You can stick your hands into each other's pockets and borrow from one another and share with one another and not be butthurt about any of it. Once that's in place, go experiment with making lots of friends. Experiment with it. But with your close group of friends, meet regularly every single week and more. Mastermind with them, partner with them. If they have a forever moment, a kid is graduating high school or they're having kids or whatever it is, be involved in their forever moments. Number 3, work you enjoy. The margin of safety activity. Should you focus on just one thing or should you build MSIs? The margin of safety activity for work I enjoy is MSIs. multiple streams of income. Why? Because my brain gets random. And if I have multiple streams of income working for me, then the thing I'm working on at the moment, the thing I'm focused on and fixated on, MSIs, you just set up, you maintain them. So what do I do with the rest of my energy throughout the day? Do the thing that's focused. You could do both. But the margin of safety activity has to be established first. Once that's established, we have real estate, we have stocks, we have dividend bearing stocks, we have staking with crypto. We have renter income, we have business income. So now when I wake up during the day and I look at my short-term, high energy, small business stuff, trading NFTs, getting involved in crypto, doing startups, all of that is the short-term stuff that's not sacrificing the long-term stuff. But MSIs, getting real estate up and running, income generating assets. With every free dollar I have, I move into income generating assets. I exert energy on the short term that outputs cash that I put into income generating on the back. But here's the other work I enjoy. Art, making time to paint. So once the MSIs are set up in place, I can expend energy painting, selling those artwork, writing my books. Those are all short-term strategies, and they're great. Not all of them have a high probability of success. So my margin of safety activity is real estate investing, income generating assets. And lastly, spirituality. Should I have a universalist view? Should I meditate? Should I breathe? Should I do Wim Hof breathing? Should I experiment with plant medicine? Should I be open to world religion? Should I be focused on energies? Absolutely. Absolutely. What's your margin of safety activity? Sacred ritual. You already in your lifetime have landed on a few things that have just brought a massive amount of peace to you. You've already experimented in your life from a spiritual perspective, things that made you weep with joy and gratitude and humility, and realigned yourself, re-anchored and reintegrated your body, your mind, and your spirit all as one. And you just felt whole, and it kind of didn't matter what was going on in the world. You've had those moments. Those sacred rituals are your margin of safety. If you were born a Christian and you're wavering or might doubt the tenets of Christianity, go to the rituals, though, that anchor you. If you were born a Hindu or a Buddhist and there's activities that make you feel grounded, but you're doubting like the veracity of the origins, you still have sacred rituals that ground you. For me, I have a sacred ritual surfing. I miss just sitting on a surfboard and just sitting and floating and connecting with God. I miss that. What's your sacred rituals? I love sitting in a chair and just reading and absorbing new knowledge and then meditating on that knowledge. Sacred rituals. That's your margin of safety activity from spirituality. Listen, this has kind of been a big lesson today. I should probably write more on this because it's big. But why do we talk about any of this? Why are we talking about margin of safety? Because I want you to be able to find your happiness. When gurus give you lessons and say it's this or it's this, and it seems to be conflicting, I want you to have a rubric where you ask yourself, both of these are good ideas. What's my margin of safety activity that will guarantee that I can retire well? I may or may not be able to retire early. I may or may not be a millionaire. I may or may not be able to do X, Y, and Z, whatever you desire. But I'll be able to take care of myself when I get older. I'll be able to take care of others. I have my margin of safety in place. That rubric allows you to take all these inputs in and go, okay, that's a margin of safety activity. That's a flash in the pan activity. And as long as it doesn't sacrifice the margin of safety, why not? Because your margin of safety is going forward, and you should take calculated risks to move things forward. Why? Because you deserve to live a life filled with more significance, more joy, and more happiness. We're talking about any of this and the Spark Show and State of the Spark. We're talking about crypto. We're talking about NFTs. We're talking about multiple streams of income. We're talking about personal development and small business, because these are just tools to help you live an ignited life of explosive significance. Have a great day.